And good evening, after a slight balls up there. And welcome to the show. When I can get this scene taken down, here we go. And tonight we have Maleficus Scott. So, good evening, Maleficus.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for having me on.
It's much appreciated. And also, thank you for coming on. And also, we have our Transport Minister. By the way, we've got the, by the way, it's a great honour, sir, to have the Ambassador of Fockham Hall for Cornwall. So thank you very much. What's it like down? Are you, showing the natives of Cornwall, Fockham manners and sort of culture and that type of thing? Culture attaché as well.
Of course,
excellent,
I think
excellent.
obviously, bumping into people in the street and giving them food for thought is exactly what we should all be doing.
Spot on. And also, we've got our Transport Minister, Fockham Transport Minister. It's his Royal Hanorak. Good evening, Mr. Royal Hanorak.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Maleficus. How are we both?
Mr. Hanorak. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm nice and warm. Thank you for asking.
Well, same here. Now, let's get something out of the way first of all. This is not my pajamas. This is a shirt. It's a Canadian lumberjack shirt, which comes from Canada. Okay, so it is not my pajamas, and it's padded, and it's bloody warm. It is. It's years old. It's from the 1980s or before. And yes, I think it's made in Canada, or it was. So there we go.
Did it come with a Mountie?
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I go to the laboratory. And then we've got Stephen Truthseeker, who's the first in chat tonight. And we've got Aunt Sally. Good morning, good evening, Aunt Sally. And here we go. That's it. And we've got and so the therapy starts. Here we go. And Stephen Truthseeker, is somebody taking the pee out of my intro tune? More 20s action.
I love that tune. I love that sort of music. I love the old. Yeah. I love the big band swing and all the traditional jazz, all that sort of thing. Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's happy.
It is good to hear. It was just a bit more the fact that it went on for about 25 minutes the last time we played
it. We got Blu-ray 1/444, and also we got Sue Sparkle. So good evening, Sue. So that's everybody in chat so far. And it did go on a little bit, didn't it, before? But never mind. Now, I believe that Maleficus, you've got a very fascinating tale to tell about a relative that possibly changed history. So, do you want to cover that first of all? There's several.
No, several. I'm joking. I'm sure, to be fair, all our relatives have helped change history. I would wager.
They have. But I think your relative was in 3 wars. Oh, wait on a minute. We've actually got here. Yes, we do our usual 2-finger or 3-finger salute to a politician or celebrity of the first person in on chat, their choice. And Stephen Truthseeker wants 3 fingers up to Nigel Farage for this week. Certainly. To Nigel Farage. There we are. Even 2 fingers.
I think that was a really good. That was a really good choice, actually.
I do as well. Really
yes. And let's be honest, it won't be the first time that Nigel Farage has probably had 3 fingers, I suspect. So that's lowered your tone again.
Well, do you notice that what he does, he's a bit like a sort of, excuse my language, a fart in the wind, isn't he? Or flatulence in the wind. He sort of turns up and he says the same thing. This is the change that we need. Yes, it is change. And if I ever see him say, yeah, mate, it's 10pence, there's some change for you. Because it's always change. This is the change. No politician can change anything. They're figureheads. They're paid to do the job of doing what the usury scammers want, and then once they get paid off. Simple. Simples. That's it.
Absolutely. I mean, I have it on reasonable authority that, Nigel Farage's UKIP was funded into existence by both the Conservative and Labour Party donators to take votes away from the BNP when they were sort of back in those days. Not that I would have gone for the BNP then either.
No, same here. But I think that, by the way, Steam Truth Seeker says, he's a fart in a bubble. Yes, he's a bit like a fart in a telephone booth. He sort of wafts up when you think he's gone away. Really? I mean, he's just sort of... It's got that... To me, he should get back to what he should do. That's wear a camel hair coat and sell used dodgy cars. He just looks like a used car salesman with his cigar.
Out of a porter cabin.
That's it, yeah. It's a nice motor, good runner. It's a good runner, I mean, it's got one careful owner, 20 others, but there was one careful one, and all that sort of stuff.
Can we get your escort here?
But when you look at these people, by the way, stop praising him, Stephen. He says he's a cretin. Yes, he'd have to improve to be a blatant cretin. But when you look at all the politicians, I wouldn't trust any of them. And none at all. And the very reason someone wants to become a politician is good enough reason for them not to be.
It's usually their own self-interest, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, no, I went to school with a guy who's now a local councillor. And I say went to school. I grew up with him in my local area. His mum owned the local cafe, and he was a bit of a mummy's boy, his only child, and that kind of thing. But he was a nice enough guy, and he had, really, he's got. I will honestly say now, probably I haven't spoken to him for years, but I'll say he's probably got the same good heart. It's just, these people don't realise that they might be able to exercise change on a very small level at their local level. But most decisions are already made for them. Particularly down in Cornwall, we had all these. We got all these at the moment. We've got all these solar farms going up, as we have all over.
Oh no! What about these bloody awful wind turbine things? They haven't got them out.
Same nonsense though.
Oh no! Have you got them off the coast as well?
No, I haven't got them off the coast. Not in Cornwall, not yet. But quite a few years back, there was an incinerator put in at a place near me called St Dennis. Beautiful old mining village. Well, not necessarily beautiful. Little bit redneck. All right, I grant you, but it was nevertheless, a little village in Cornwall. And they decided, because part of it was reclaimed land because of all the English China clay deposits, that they'd build a big incinerator there. And they decided what they would do is actually tout it out. A French company won the contract.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 5 or 7 years, they were campaigning all over Cornwall, no incinerator in St Dennis. It later came out after it was built and everything, that the decision already had been put through in Whitehall before the planning had even been put in. So that's just the way these people work. And these poor councillors at the bottom end, all right, don't get me wrong, keep Freemasonry out of local government, definitely.
Agree.
But, at the end of the day, some of these people enter into it with the best of intentions. I will say the guy that is head of Cornwall Council at the moment, he is actually councillor for Mevagissey. And he's a very hard-working guy. He's the guy that stood up and said absolutely no for digital ID in Cornwall.
Oh, I think some of them are waking up, maybe. But where I live, I mean...
well, there were 4 councillors that said that they wanted the digital ID to come in. So they've obviously all ousted themselves, as far as I'm concerned, in the Cornish eyes as traitors to their own people.
Well, they are, because what I like about Cornwall is the customs and excise people used to get shot, didn't they, years ago, because they didn't like them, and that's why they cut all the trees down, because smugglers used to hide. And isn't it true they used to use, what was it, vodka, or no, was it rum? I think it was, to wash their windows with, because it was cheaper than water.
Gin.
That's it. It's cheaper than water. Yes, I kind of like the Cornish because of that. There's a sort of a Cornish thing.
Originally, the customs and excise people were called coast guards. That's what they were called. They used to, any wrecks, because there's all these stories about Cornish smugglers and stuff. There weren't that many smugglers. I'm sure lots of stuff got smuggled in all over the UK, but they were more what you call wreckers, which is local villages who would take advantage of the spoils of the sea. If someone was stupid enough to crash their ship into a bunch of rocks nearby, then as far as the locals were concerned,
that's right.
Then it's fair game. And the local Coast Guard was put in place to stop this from happening. He was given the same powers as what you would have as custom and excise. Now, he acted on the king or queen's behalf, and anything that was washed up on the Cornish beaches was to do with the obviously the Duchy of Cornwall. So it would have been the Prince of Wales or whoever it was at the time.
This isn't Cornwall deemed as a separate country anyway?
We've never signed anything to enter the UK.
That's right.
And of course, going back to what you were saying about that incinerator that's been built, I'd be intrigued to see who actually owns that, because I suspect if it's already gone through
French
Parliament,
company.
I was going to say, I wonder if there's some link to some politician. I suspect
undoubtedly. But we're living on a planet where there's one wallet, and they dish money out in various places to make certain things happen, mainly wars.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've only got to go and look at, so for instance, the recent Russia-Ukraine stuff that's been going on for so long, and I've said it so many times, if it was really the Russian bear and they were poking the Russian bear, if Putin had wanted to go in and get the job done, he would have got the job done.
Yes.
But instead, he's turned it into a long and protracted war whereby Ukraine is being sold off to his supposed enemies. And if you look, Russia's central bank is part of the World Bank of International Settlements. So we are all living under one wallet. As Grandad said in his book, why is money lavishly created to fund all these wars, and yet for peace, credit is immediately restricted?
Yes.
So
it's all. And I know that, what was that chap who wrote the book? Was it From Admiral to Cabin Boy? I can't think of his name now. He wrote a book, and he said there was the hidden hand, because whenever they tried to do something, there was a hidden hand that sort of came into power. Strange things happened in Parliament, and this was in the 1930s. And they said it was like something secret going on that they couldn't get they just could not get to the bottom of it. It's something very strange. Was it Domville?
I don't know. I haven't read that one.
Yes.
There were a lot of weird things going on in the 30s. I mean, the 18B internment, for one. All opposition to the war was locked up. Even Lord Mosley ended up getting locked up. Not that he was Lord at the time.
Yes, that's right. And tell you what else has got locked up. It's happened again. I'm going to have to change feeds because I can't actually put the captions on the screen for some unknown reason. It always happens every week. But Jojo Gizmo said politicians might start out with good intentions, but once they see all the perks they can get their hands on, they soon jump on the gravy train. And Stephen Truthseeker said Tony Blair and Keir Starmer were groomed to do what they do. I agree with you. I'm just going to change. Yeah, I'm going to change feeds because this happens a lot of times. So just bear with me one more. So where are we now? So your granddad was quite an interesting man. I'll just hang on a moment and see if we can go over. Right, I'm going to go into the next feed, see if we can do. Right, okay, we're here now in the next feed. I'm going to put my camera on. And here we are again. Everybody with us now? That's it. Yes, that was a pain. Yeah, we're still there. Is everything going? Yeah, everything's going hunky-dory, I think. I'm sorry about that, folks, but this happens every other, I don't know, it seems to happen every other week. I have to go into a second feed because for some weird reason, what people put in chat, I can't highlight at the top of the screen for some weird reason. Anyway, that's it. Now,
yeah, so Grandad was in, basically, he wasn't in 3 wars, he was in 2 wars. So he was born in 1878 or 1879. So he fought in the Boer War, and he commanded in the First World War. When the Second World War came, he'd already been invalided out of the army by then, and he took up ranks as a special police officer around Morton Hampstead, where he lived. So yeah, but he was born. I was born in 1976. That'll be so nearly 100 years after him.
Good year. So was I.
Oh well,
he was born in 76. It's a very good. All the best people. Yes, 1976, and that was during the heat wave.
That was during the heat wave. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. But you would have wondered, there's a lot of people being born in 1976. You would have thought that a heat wave would have been in 1975. But there we go. But yes,
it was too hot in 1976.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny because when you look at time. How generations come and generations go. For example, I'm showing my age now. Stephen Truthseeker was born in 1971.
Same age as my brother.
There we go. That's it. And I won't tell you what year I was born, but no, seriously.
Go on.
Let's put it this way. I was born in the 50s. Let's put it that way. So I'm getting on a bit.
It's amazing what all of you can do these days, though, isn't it?
That's it, and
you're really 106, but
don't worry. I've got a friend up country called Adrian, who was born on the same month that we gave Poland the guarantee.
Really? Now that he must be getting on a bit.
He's knocking on a bit, and fiercely political still to this day.
Really?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you something though. Do you wish when you was younger you would have paid more attention to the older folk? Because my granddad used to come out with some real interesting things, and he always used to say something. Now, when I was a kid, it didn't mean much. He said, "Watch out for the infiltrators. Always watch out for the infiltrators." And do you know the reason why? He saw the Labour Party being infiltrated in the 1920s and 30s. And and apparently the Labour Party wasn't necessarily socialist when it started. It's completely different. And it got infiltrated. And that's it.
As soon as I mean, we've got, it's the same here as it is in most sort of westernized countries, and that is we have a 2-party system.
Yeah,
like you can tick all boxes with those 2 parties. As long as you're voting for one or not the other. Yeah, and the newspapers sort of align themselves with one or the other. It's all just. What is it Shakespeare said? The world's a stage. All those upon it actors.
The illusion of choice.
And also, I'm going to give an answer to a question I'm putting, and everybody will say I'm wrong. Who was the Prime Minister between 1940 and 1945 in this country? And most people will say Winston Churchill. Half right. It's Clement Attlee. Because it was a coalition. And Churchill was the mouthpiece and the face, and Clement Attlee ran things quietly behind. So that was Labour and Conservative.
Clemently, in fact.
Clement. Oh. Now, Matilda Wyra said, "I know nothing of my history due to adoption of one of my parents."
Oh, that's interesting. Now, I'd never even thought about that. That's an interesting concept.
That is.
Well, one of the questions I've posed to somebody quite a while back, because I don't think our history is as long as we're told. And I posed a question. Somebody said, "Well, Did your granddad or grandparents ever meet their grandparents? This guy, I met a message, and he'd asked 22 different other people this same question, and every one of them would come back and said no. Not one of them had ever either never asked asked that question, or if they had asked that question, their response, the response they'd come back with was no.
Well, my grandparents, they actually met. They lived down. I think my grandmother lived round the corner to my granddad, and
what
he
I
used to go.
Did their grandparents meet their grandparents? Is what I mean. That takes us back 200 years or 300 years potentially.
Well, my granddad was born in 1888. Okay, so he was, and he, as I said on the previous show, he remembered Tower Bridge being finished off. Because Tower Bridge, and he said that there's a farrier's shop, and they threw the rivets up to the what do you call it, the riveters, and the riveters used to catch them. I don't know whether it was in leather gloves or anything like that. Put the rivet straight into the hole and bash, and that was a skill. And they literally threw the rivets up to the riveters. That's how they built it.
Wow!
And he remembered seeing that. And he also remembered the earthquake in San Francisco. And that was, 1912, was it? I think it was 12. There's a film made about it. Yeah.
You must remember the sinking of the Titanic and all sorts.
Oh, he would have done, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's a show in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you got that sinking feeling, you know. Sorry. Yeah, he was he died when I was young, but no, and his mother, I can just about remember his mother. His mother lived to 103.
Wow. So yeah, so to go back to Hanorak's question, yeah. So that's it. It's an interesting thought, but obviously there must be a handful of people that can. I've got a really interesting book here, written by a guy called Arthur Beecroft.
Yes.
Gallipoli, A Soldier's Story, and he talks the introduction and the reason as to why they decided it was a good thing that they'd go and sign up, apart from being handed out white feathers and things like that.
Yes.
Basically, he remembers his uncle, or was it uncle or his great uncle, talking about the glory days. It was his great uncle talking about the glory days of the Napoleonic Wars. And
wow,
so
that's something.
But, well, it sounds like something, right? Doesn't it? It does sound like something. But then, if you think about it, you know, World War II was only what,
80 years,
just over twice my life. No, under twice my life ago. So, and I don't feel like I've been alive all that long, even though I'm like knocking on 50, obviously. So World War II was only that amount of time back. So if you extrapolate upon that, really it's not that far back to the Napoleonic Wars. And history is taught as this old and dusty subject that everyone thinks, oh, well, you can't change that. Oh, yeah, leave that alone. But I think we're taught to think it's a lot longer ago than it actually was.
Well, I think you're right. Yes,
how technology's moved on, and as I say, if Arthur Beecroft, who participated in Gallipoli, can remember his great uncle talking about the Napoleonic Wars, and we were going back to times where if you were very rich, you could afford a set of Waterloo teeth.
That's right.
Yeah, where they
from the corpses
of the Waterloo battlefield. Yeah.
And apparently, when they had cannonballs, you could actually see the cannonball coming towards you, and you sort of dive out of the way. You out the way of it. It's like as it went past you, And apparently, you could do that if it's far enough away. But what they then did, they put was it a chain between two cannonballs?
That's right.
Yes. Very very nice. Some of the nasty things they did. But
actually, if there's a link between those the firing of cannons and killing people and 10-pin bowling, because a lot of the sports have a bit of a link with that. Like snooker is supposed to be linked to the white man knocking out the Red Indians, for example, which is why there's the red balls which is what the red balls on the snooker table represent.
Really, I didn't know that.
Which makes you wonder if there's some link between 10-pin bowling and firing of cannons? Just random thoughts.
Well, the strange thing is that we're all men in this country. The majority of men are breaking the law, including myself, because they never changed the law that we must practice the war bow every Sunday.
Oh.
None of us do. Yeah, so yeah, because it wasn't the longbow; it's called the war bow, and it's the Victorians that changed the name to the longbow. So that it was law. It became law, and they never repealed it. So we're all breaking the law.
More about yew trees as well, not being able to cut down yew trees.
I don't know.
Same reason. Because all the longbows or war bows, if you call them that, were made out of yew, weren't they?
That's right. Yes.
Use the inner bark for the inside and the outer bark for the outside. They laminate them together. I can't remember what with, because the harder wood was better at stretching, or was it the other way around? And the softer wood was better at compressing. So they'd use the heartwood and the outer wood to laminate together. That's where the strength of the longbow came from, apparently, according to my father.
Really, I don't know too much about that. But when you think about it, all we've had is a history of warfare, isn't it? Really, and the most advanced technology was guns. Because you think how technologically they're advanced. I mean, in the Napoleonic Wars, we had cannons, which they had to muskets, which they had to load, and then suddenly, Britain, in the mid-Victorian times, had rear-loading guns, steel battleships, and when the admiral of the French Navy came on board British ships, it must have been like walking on board the control, what was it called, the control tower of the Starship Enterprise. And actually, because they still had galleons, I think, in the 1850s, I think the French still had sail ships, and we had all steam. So, it's quite amazing. We had dreadnoughts and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at age, I mean, on my mother's side, her grandmother died in 1952, aged 99, and she was born in 1853. And she told my mother that she remembered when it snowed every Christmas. And that was the last mini ice age. She remembered it. So that's why Charles Dickens, all his stuff is always, when it's in the winter, it says snow, because he lived, when he was a child, through the last ice age. But when you think how tough people had it in those days, what a tough life, because my granddad, he had a half brother, because I think his mother remarried because her husband died. So he had a half brother, and this half brother had a hook as for on one hand, because he lost his hand during World War One.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it's funny. Just as a side note, now you've mentioned someone with a hook on their hand. I've got to say this, right? So I took my daughter to a fast food restaurant, which I'm not going to mention because that's what she wanted, and we're stood there waiting for our number to be called out. I noticed there was a guy stood next to us. Draped over where his hand would be was his ticket, his receipt. And I realized he was kind of using it to hide a hook. I was like, and I nudged my daughter and she clocked it. This big aluminium hook that he had. Obviously he used it for driving or whatever, and he went up to the counter and she had like 3 bags for him, and he went up and he started to grab it, and the girl behind the counter went, "Do you want a hand with that?" And then just realized what she'd said.
Oh dear. But I didn't know that people still had hooks now, because you could get all these prosthetic hands and things.
I'm sure you can opt for various attachments nowadays. God, just think of the attachments you could have nowadays, 3D printed.
That's right.
Yeah, you can have a torch on it, all sorts. I tell you what, though,
I bet it's a Swiss Army knife on the end of your arm, couldn't you?
But that's not new. That's what they did after the First World War. They had attachments where you could actually turn the hand into like a tool, and you had like a drill brace and all kinds of things to make things.
I'll tell you what, though, imagine like if you've got an itchy ear or an itchy bum, you pick the wrong hand.
Yes. Well, anyway, Yorkshire Rose says that she was born in 1964 and remembers the 76 heat wave. So yes, I'm a little bit older than you, Yorkshire Rose. I remember it as well, and it was so hot it was actually melting the tarmac on the roads, and you had all tarmac all sort of slurping up the sides of the roads and that, But
Well, the thing is, you were saying about winters as well. I mean, I've never seen a white Christmas, as it were, but I've certainly seen footage of like back into the 60s and 70s where you'd
that's
have
right.
10 foot of
63.
snow, and they were trying to clear
63
the snow
they
with
had one.
trains, and the
Yeah,
snow was above the height of the train and stuff like that.
that's right. And
And
81
there's
was a bad one. Was a bad winter, and that was
yes,
after the
yeah,
Mount St Helens volcano, and it put ash into the sky, into the air, and it really did freeze. It was a really really harsh winter. That one was. So yes, I feel like a geriatric sitting here. But now, what's oh, by the way, you've got Yorkshire Rose back. Hello, Yorkshire Rose. Nice to see you again. What was their secret to live to 102? And I think it was bloody good, wholesome food.
Yeah, just good food. Yeah, honest food. That's pretty much it. I would say, particularly
Not
nowadays.
much of it.
It's nothing to. Yeah, not much of it. You're right. It's nothing to do with all the fumes, from cars and things like that. It's nothing to do with any of that. It's literally the rubbish that we're all being force fed with because it's cheap to produce.
Well, that's it.
There's as a substitute to everything, to butter and everything. Now you have either palm fat or palm oil, which is so hard for the body to break down. You should get Mr. Von Kurt on to talk about this, Eric, because he's quite good with gut health and that kind of thing.
Oh, I'll be very interested because I'm actually on a keto diet. Not a full. You see, you have the
was it meat one, isn't it?
Well, not 100%. You see, you can. My attitude is everybody's different, and you adjust it to what you really is best for you. That's really it. And what I do is I wake up and I have in the morning a big breakfast, meat-based breakfast. Then I have a little snack around about 1 o'clock, and that's it. I don't eat anything more until the next day. So I go about 16 to 18 hours without food because up until about 100 years ago, anybody that had more than, say, one meal a day was considered organic. And it's only people like who do the cornflakes and people like that who pushed that you should have cornflakes and cereals in the morning, which is probably the worst thing you'd ever wish to have first thing in the morning. It's terrible. And I mean, I don't eat sugar and I don't have flour in my diet. I don't really miss it. And I mean, when I first went onto it, which was about 18 months ago, I lost 1.5 stone in 2 weeks.
Crikey.
Yeah.
Wow. Crikey. Yeah.
But you feel fantastic. You feel really good on it. And it cures a lot of ailments and things. But it doesn't suit everybody. That's the thing. It can't suit everybody. Yeah, sorry, he's going to say, mate.
And of course, that's the problem is that people fall for the break fast. And obviously the cereal companies have got onto that by putting sugar in everything. So you start your day on sugar and then you're craving sugar all day then. Whereas by cutting out, by not having the cereals in the first place, because we don't need breakfast. Breakfast is not really needed.
Yeah, I rarely eat breakfast, and I do a very physical job. So,
our hunter gatherers, I think they used to have breakfast. I'm not sure, but yes. Sorry, he's going to say, Paul.
Yeah, I was saying that obviously the more you fast, the more your body heals itself.
It does,
and like I said, the cereals and stuff are just there to poison us, aren't they? Let's be honest. I mean, that's what they're.
Well, the carbohydrates make you continuously feel hungry. Whereas I have protein, very high protein, and you don't feel hungry because the protein is doing what it should be doing. It's what it says on the box, so to speak. But the thing is, another thing, I make sure I have organic eggs every day, and they're very good, the organic ones. But the trouble is that I found Lidl's is the cheapest place to get them. There was a farm around the corner that did them, but they couldn't be labelled organic. And over Christmas, the farm's been closed, so I've just gone to Lidl's, But normally I go to the farm.
Well, I will say, since I've changed my approach to food and what I eat, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still eat crap from time to time, but I do eat healthy as well. But since I have been on the healthiest streak, and since I've become non-vegan, and I'm going to be a bit crude here, I have a lot less wind, shall we say?
Same here. Same here.
And I find that certain foods, or I think foods and drinks, your body, if you start coughing or sneezing when you've had food, it's your body's way of saying I don't like that. It's telling you warnings about it, and that's what I think that's all about.
Well,
like when you see people vaping and they cough and sputter on the back of it, stop bloody vaping. That's what's causing it.
I used to be a vegetarian. I was a vegan at one time. And my sister and brother-in-law, who I hasten to add, I haven't seen for over 15 years. My sister, you see, used to have this. Do you remember those frame type seats from the 70s? You know the type? Brown was very much a 70s colour. And they had a settee that had like brown. And I used to sit in this settee. And I think it was nerves because I won't go into it, but my brother-in-law and sister, they were not... They weren't the full ticket, I don't think. And I used to always get very bad flatulence when I was in their company. I don't know why. I think it was. And I used to sort of sit down and do these depth charges, as they called it, on her seat. Anyway, my sister was ill one day, and she decided to lay down on her settee, put her head down, and she said she almost threw up. It smelt of my farts. She said, I'm going to come round to your house and eat all the greens I can and do the same on your seats. But no, I think what it was so low it cramped your stomach up, but that's the thing. All I did was fart most of the day because with vegetarian, that's what not all, but it depends on what you eat. But as I say, since I've gone on to this keto diet, I don't actually get some flatulence. Well, I do sometimes, but not always.
Just in lifts and taxis.
Yeah. But
or at the checkout.
Yes. Yes, or but it's a good way of getting to the front of the queue, isn't it? You just stand there. But I think what I want is a phone. What they call it? When your phone rings, what they call it now? Phone app, which has the sound of flatulence, so that people get out of the way of you when someone phones you.
I think you need to download the big fart button, then.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes.
You just need to master the whole scowling at someone after you've done it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like when you're on a crowded train, and when I used to travel to work each day, and I'd just give somebody a really vile look,
I couldn't do it on that bus I told you about, though. That one day I was sat at the back on my own, and I let one go, and I thought the bus seat had filtered in, didn't. And there was a woman sat about 4 rows in front, and she went, what's that smell? I thought, I can't even look at anybody because there's only me here.
But
how embarrassing! How very embarrassing!
Very, very embarrassing. But back to your very interesting grandfather. Okay. Was he your great grandfather?
No, he was my grandfather. So he was my mum's dad. So he was a guy called ended up being Lieutenant Colonel J. Cray Scott. So he served with the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders during the Boer War.
Wow.
Was injured at Margesfontein, which I don't know whether you know about Margesfontein, but it was known as one of the blackest days for the British Army, basically because all the Scottish regiments wandered up to where they thought the Boers were going to be, and the sneaky Boers had dug a trench around the bottom of the hill, hadn't they? And they waited literally until they saw the whites of their eyes and let them have it, and it was an absolute massacre. So Grandad was injured there, carried on his military service, and ended up a captain in the he commanded the 2nd Battalion, Princess Louise's Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, on the Battle of the Somme. So
my uncle was there. My mum's uncle
managed to get out.
Really?
Because I'm here.
Yeah, I suppose you wouldn't be here if it wasn't. No, my mum's uncle was actually on the Somme, and he got buried alive, and his friends saw where he was. I don't know the full facts.
Okay.
I don't know whether he was tunnelling and the tunnel came in, or whether it was a shell exploded. And I don't know how he got buried alive, but his friends or colleagues saw him and dug him out. And from that day on, he was stone deaf, but he still had to carry on in the army at the front.
Wow.
Stone deaf. And
Stone
afterwards, when he tried to get a pension,
the gunnery people, shouldn't they?
well, after he tried to get a pension, they said no, because he was deaf when he went into the war. And he said, well, hang on, there's my medical certificate. It doesn't say anything about deafness. They went, but he never didn't get a pension.
Right, yeah, people are still waiting for yeah. Yeah, let's not even go there. I mean, the amount of people that should be due compensation that don't get it. We got people that served this country in recent years living on the streets, for goodness sake. So,
well, my father he didn't live on the streets, but they almost, because my parents were homeless before I was born, and my father, he went through the full 6 years during World War II, and he said they treated criminals better than they treated war veterans, and the British Legion is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
He had no time for them. But he was a conscript. He didn't want to. He didn't like the army. He hated it.
He didn't want to be there anyway.
No, he didn't. That's it. That's the thing. Conscription doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work because.
Well, it does, because it's if you look, I mean, you always judge these things by how well they work, and for the intents and purposes of putting various races of Europe through a mincemeat grinder. It worked really, really well. It didn't matter how willing they were, or how deceived they were, or how under-equipped they were. And we were going to the Battle of the Somme, saying about the Battle of the Somme where Grandad served. There's a brilliant video on YouTube. I can't remember what it's called now. I'll try and dig it out before the end of the show. And it's all the unheard voices of people that served on the Somme.
Really?
And they talk very freely about the butcher, i.e. Douglas Haig. And it's very interesting actually that Douglas Haig had an advisor who was a similar rank to him, who when he wanted them all to charge after the first barrage, his advisor said, no, have them walk. And he didn't feel like apparently this is how the story goes, he didn't feel like he could uprank him, so he went along with it. So all our forces, because the Germans knew, they knew beforehand that the Battle of the Somme was happening. So they all dug into their concrete bunkers 30 foot underground and just waited for the barrage to finish, the artillery barrage to finish, and then just manned their positions. And there's all these poor idiots walking across the field. Most of them were mowed down. Battalions of 690 men reduced to 30 odd.
Bloody hell.
This particular, there was one particular testimony from that movie, actually, that video, that documentary, that really stuck out with me. And he said there was this chap, he said, I wasn't going to walk. He said, me and our lads, we ran. And he said, when we got to the German positions as they were coming out of their bunkers, and he said, we basically had a few. He said, and at one point we actually went into one of the concrete bunkers, and he said, it always troubled me. He said, because not only did they have concrete bunkers, which we didn't have, he said, but they were all carpeted. Every floor was carpeted with Blue Circle cement bags. Blue Circle was only produced in the UK. And it troubled him for ages. And then after the war was over, he was transported through German territory and out through Denmark, where he saw on the docksides pallet upon pallet upon pallet of Blue Circle cement, all destined for Germany. He said, so someone was making some money out of it.
Well, my father, he was in frontline intelligence, and there was an Austrian chap who was in Austria when war was declared. And he said I'm not sure, I think it's a couple of weeks after war had been declared, there was trainloads of British arms going across the border into Germany with British officials and German officials all signing documents. Yeah. Openly. He said, there they were, all these British arms all shelling into Germany.
Yeah, you don't surprise me. But, as far as your uncle, was it your uncle being buried alive?
Yes. No, it's my mother's uncle.
Your mother's uncle. So there was another really quite horrific story. There was another chap said, we had this guy, it was his first day on the line and a shell went off next to him. We just saw his legs kicking out of the dirt, and we tried to pull him out and we couldn't. We pulled as hard as we could, and we realised afterwards, after we dug him out, that he'd had his chin strap of his helmet around the bottom of his chin and not on his chin, which is where they're supposed to wear it.
Yes.
And they'd broken his neck trying to pull him out. Poor guy. So anyway, enough horror stories of World War One. So yeah, that's what Grandad did. He served on the Somme, and then when he was invalided out of the war, he settled at home in Morton Hampstead in Devon with my mum's mum, and got into economics and politics, and went all up and down the country. Campaigning for social credit, not the social credit you get out of China nowadays, but social credit, credit unions, real genuine credit unions, try and bypass the banks, basically. And when that was all stamped upon, I mean, I've even got one of his speeches from 1936 from Congregational Church of Aberdeen. He talks about, in that speech, manufactured shortage. The sort of shortage that we all get nowadays, like there's going to be a petrol shortage. There's no shortage of petrol, but it's manufactured. Do you see what I'm saying? So he was talking about...
Well, that's right, yes. This is what happened in the 1973 petrol crisis. They ordered the... I know this for a fact, the ships carrying the oil tankers, to drop anchor in the channel. There's loads of them in the channel, to create a shortage deliberately.
Yes, yeah. Well, this. So I'll send you a copy of the speech. Actually, Eric, it's really quite.
I'll be very, very interested in that. What an incredible man! I mean, this credit union. I mean, obviously,
basically, he we can get into a bit of that. But after he did that, he then got involved with people like A.K. Chesterton. In fact, A.K. Chesterton approached him. Because they were starting up the League of Empire Loyalists to stop the dissolution of the British Empire after the war. And of course, as we know now, it had already been sold off anyway by Mr. Churchill himself and his advisors. Let's be fair to the man. He was too drunk most of the time to really realise what he was doing. And he ended up getting together. He used to chair the annual general meetings for the League of Empire Loyalists. But he also ended up writing a book, which was published by Britain's Publishing Society, which I believe was to do with the LEL, or at least were affiliated with the LEL. And Britain's Publishing also published his book, which was Hidden Government, which describes how capitalist and communist countries are run by the same people. And I think Britain's Publishing also published Archibald Maule Ramsey's The Nameless War. So there's two sort of...
Wow, what a man. That is incredible. And I mean, when you look at it, I mean, for example, there was the famous book which you can actually download free of charge by War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. And what he said in the 1930s is exactly what's happening now. Nothing's changed at all.
Well, it's the same with Grandad's book. I mean, if I don't know whether you can get hold of any more copies of it at the moment.
Let's make a note. Let's make a note of the book at the title again.
It's Hidden Government. By the way, folks, just so you're listening, I don't make any money out of promoting the book.
Is that a Ferrari I could hear running in the background?
No, that's my PC. It's got some dodgy fans on it.
I've been looking at that whilst you've been talking. I've been because I do a bit of gematria and numerology, and I'm just looking at the Battle of the Somme. And it's an interesting day it started. It's bang in the middle, 183 days in either direction, and order out of chaos, which is obviously one of their favourite slogans, equals 183.
That's fascinating. Now,
carry on, mate. And then it ended on the 18th of November 1916. Which is a date that leaves 43 days in the year. Interesting, Freemasons, Masonic, Killing and RIP all equal 43. Because we know that wars they're paid for on both sides, which you're saying about the Blue Circle Cement, which we used to have a Blue Circle Cement place here in Oaken Gates.
Well, they're everywhere, weren't they? I mean, Blue Circle Cement.
Blue Circle is owned by a French company now, like the incinerator in St Denis, but it's still called Blue Circle.
Interesting logo circle, given that links to
that's one thing.
World.
they had the total. Is it you could only get Blue Circle cement until was it a couple of decades ago? If you went to buy cement, you can buy anything else but Blue Circle. They had the complete, they control the market. But this hidden jobment, and it's by, you did mention the name, it's by
J. Cray Scott.
J. K. Scott.
Cray. I'll type it in chat for you. Hang on.
Okay.
What shall I type it in? Shall I type it? I'll type it in the live chat there.
Wow.
Facebook.
Scott, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to look that up. That's fascinating. But
well, look, I mean, you can. It's out of print at the moment because the publisher found a problem not with the content, but with a font that had been used on the front cover. So someone had obviously done enough research into it to for someone else to be officially, professionally offended. Not about the content, which goes basically talks about the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion and their relevance to 1950s Britain and the rest of the world, because that's when the book was written in 54. So you can actually get hold of a copy on Archive. I will dig it out and I'll stick the link in the chat for anyone if they want to have a read through. So you can read it for free. The only thing I do ask is that if we do get round to printing another copy of it, which hopefully will be next year, it's going to be much updated and expanded, as in not adding stuff to his work, but that I've just got a whole load more stuff on him since I've been studying all this.
Really? I mean, when did he pass? When did he pass away?
He passed away in 50. I want to say 57.
Or
58. Yeah, so only 3-4 years after he wrote the book.
Really? So 1958. So he lived to what? That's the thing. He was born in
70 something. My mum was conceived when he was in his mid 60s. So back of the net there.
Wow. Well, that's interesting because they reckon that a child that's born to more older parents is more mature. They mature very much quickly because they have an older head on younger shoulders.
It's funny, isn't it? Because everyone says that a generation nowadays, they consider a generation is what, 18 or 20 years?
Yes.
When I was a kid, it used to be considered 25 years. That's a generation.
Yes.
Whereas generationally, if you think about it, it's only 2 jumps to 100 years ago for me.
Yes.
From my birth date. So,
yes.
Again, this all contributes to me feeling that history is not old and dusty at all and is actually a very tangible, touchable thing.
Well, I think about that as well because, I mean, as Chris knows, I'm a bus and train anorak as my interests away from work, etc. And I've got pictures of buses, for example, back in 2001, where there's not a single mobile phone to be seen, and the vehicles that are being driven around are ancient-looking vehicles. Yeah. And it's hard to believe that just 25 years later we are where we are, and how quick technology's progressed, and it's quite scary, really, when you think about how quick things change in such a short space of time.
Well, look at smartphones.
If you think 100 years from my generation, from my granddad to me, going back to that, Napoleonic Wars, you're only looking at 200 years ago.
That's right.
It's really not that long ago at all. Really isn't. We just need to believe that it's. And it's so that people don't remember their history. It's people are being trained to forget their history. And as George, famous quote, George Santayana, those who don't remember their history are condemned to repeat it.
Spot on.
That's what it's about.
I'll tell you something else. My granddad used to say that the trains that came in from London, there used to be children, desperately poor, starving, used to beg off the city workers, the people that worked in London, for food. And he said they were barely dressed. He said it'd be midwinter, and he said they had no shoes on their feet, and they would just be like ragamuffins. And he said it was a really pitiful sight to see them, skin and bone, just begging. And this must have been, I don't know, because my grandfather, he was an optician. He started off as an optician. But TLBNAWKA, Says, this has been great. Can you put links to where we can find your guest? Well, he's in Cornwall. Also,
I do a show once a week with Shelley Tasker on Radio Soapbox called theshelleytasker.com.
Shelley Tasker, righto.
Shelley Tasker show, and I think you can, if you go to shelleytasker.co.uk, I think it is, you might be able to find some links there to get in contact with me or Shelley. Yeah, I mean,
that's be brilliant. That'd be brilliant.
I'm just going to dig out the book for you guys. So
okay, and it goes on to say, and you want to talk about giveaways. What are we going to give away? Think of D-Day, the 6th day of the 6th month on the 16th hour. Yes, we're going into what my father was into, and that was numerology, and he predicted D-Day about 18 months before it happened with using numerology, and it was called the Second Front, and it's
666 there.
666, and you know what? He was on one of the initial assault waves, and you know what time they hit the beach? 6:30.
Wow.
And my dad, throughout his life, was all 3 6s and 9s, and he died at 6:30 in the morning on the 9th of March. Isn't that weird?
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing how the numbers follow you and all. I keep seeing the number 666. I hope it's not a sign, but it probably is a sign. But I like to think it's a good sign, not a bad one. Yes. I keep seeing 666 and 616. They keep turning up.
But if you're interested, TLB in World War II, my dad went through the full 6 years. There's a link to his books that he wrote down below in the descriptions to this show, so you can look there. And I'll add some links also after the show where people can go and find Maleficus and that. So there we go. And thank you very much for that. TLBNAWKI. So there we go.
If it's okay, Chris, I'm okay to drop off now, if that's okay.
Certainly. You can come and go. It's a big, happy family. You can come and go whenever you like.
I will be in the audience. I'm just going to go and do a few things and get some.
I fully understand. You're always more than welcome on the show. Nobody's left out. I don't want to leave anybody out. I think that it's important because we got such nice people in chat and all the guests and that, and I'm very, very lucky. So do whatever you like.
Family we've got.
That's right.
Have a good evening. I'll join the chat in a few minutes. But yeah.
Okay. I fully understand.
Lovely to speak to you again, Anorak.
Likewise.
Indeed,
yes.
I'll be back on again at some point. But have a good evening, all. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Cheers now.
Now,
right.
Maleficus.
I found the link for you. I just searched on Archive and it said we don't have that, but they do. They're lying. So I'm just going to pop that in chat for you if I can.
Okay. And I'll try and copy it and put it over.
Yeah, there we go. If I put it there for you.
That's it.
Has that come up for you, Eric?
No. It hasn't come up yet. It's William. Hello, William. Pleased to speak to you.
I might have to tiny URL it because it's too long for. Let's see if I can put it in the.
Well, actually, could you email me?
I've just put it there for you, mate.
That's smashing. I'll just press that. See what happens. Oh,
good luck with that. You'll have to put it in the chat if you can. I just tried to put it in the chat and it won't let me. But
I'll just try. I'll copy it.
Hang on Rumble, if that's any help.
That'd be fantastic. And what I'll do is I will paste it somewhere. Don't know where I'm going to paste it. There we go. We'll paste it here. Paste it out and see what happens. Can't provide secure connection. Oh, then go ahead.
Yeah, it looks to me like it's no longer hosted by Archive, but it is the Archive version that's up there.
So that's interesting.
It's funny, isn't it? Archive is supposed to be archive.org, but it was impartial. But there we go. It's up there. If anyone's got any questions,
thank you very much.
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions or any problems with it, feel free to email me at MALLIFICUS.
Just one moment. I will put this. Oh yes, rubbing it in there. Thank you very much. Right. So it's I'll add a banner and I put it. What is it? MALLIFICUS IEUS at Maleficus at outlook.com, and I'll put that along the bottom, and I'll create the banner. Now, is this correct?
It is indeed. There you go. So if anyone's got any questions or wants to chastise me for being such a horrible person for promoting my granddad's book or his work, feel free. Yeah,
it's your duty to. I feel that. I don't know whether do you feel a lot of responsibility in doing that? Because I did with my dad. Because I promised him.
Do you know what is so funny, Eric? It's really weird because I think everyone knows, right? Everyone knows. They go through their life and they think something's not right about this life. Something's not measuring up. Particularly when it comes to silly things like government decisions and things like that. You just think stuff just doesn't measure up. So I've always had this sort of, I suppose, inbuilt thing. Something doesn't measure up. And then when 9/11 happened and those towers went down quicker than Fred Dibner could have taken them down.
That's right.
Yeah. And straighter. I think Fred Dibner would have been blooming proud, don't you, to take down such a big building? So
also on their own footprint as well.
Exactly.
Marvelous bit of what's name.
Yeah.
We got another guest come along.
Hello.
He's a man that he's lost his voice. Now, try the old squirty stuff down your throat, and we'll be able to hear you. You lost your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Maleficus, this is Survival Steve. Survival Steve, this is Maleficus. And
hello,
Survival Steve was actually ex-army man. And he was in a top position in the army. And I think you'd be very interested in what Mr. Scott is talking about, Maleficus here, because his grandfather was in the Boer War and the First World War and wrote books in the interwar periods. And you were saying Maleficus.
Yeah, like I say, he studied economics and politics, ended up writing the book Hidden Government, and was he was one of the first people to lend his name and reputation to the League of Empire Loyalists. So to stop the dissolution of the British Empire after the war. So that's so as regards with what you were saying about feeling a responsibility, I've always we all of us, we know that the world we're living in is doesn't fit us quite perfectly as it should. No. We're not living in the Garden of Eden, is what I'm saying. And
that's right.
And I think for some of us, some people just muddle on to get along. But for some of us, for a small percentage of us, it sticks. It sticks in your tooth, and you can't help but pick it. And you have to. You're not happy until you've freed up that little bit of debris that's causing you that much discomfort. And of course, so I did a lot of studies after 9/11, and carried on, from that time. But it wasn't until I started doing my rediscovery of World War II, which obviously I did history at school, and I had to unlearn everything I learned at school and then relearn everything, because beware the victor's version and all that. Suddenly you realize that, because I was a big aviation fan, Spitfires and Chocks Away and Tally-Ho.
Yes, that's it, yes.
And then you suddenly realize there was you only have to read Richard Hillary's book, The Last Enemy, when you realize there was an incredible amount of chivalry between the two sides.
There was. That's what on the battlefield there was.
Whoever shot who down, it was right. It was fair and it was right. It was like jousting.
That's right. And you didn't shoot at parachutes.
No,
that was another one.
Unless you were Polish. Yeah.
Unless you're Polish. Yeah.
So it made me realize, hang on a minute. They were nice guys on the other side. You had the likes of Douglas Bader being, having to bail out without his legs. And he was personally met by Adolf Galland and taken to the mess hall and treated like an absolute gentleman. They even organized for him to have spare tin legs dropped off.
That's right. And also, did you know that on both sides, this is my father's book, they risked their lives to save the injured of the opposing side. Yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah, they did.
So, you hear about the nasty things, but you don't hear about the good decent kindness of the individual.
I get what you're saying. But as I say,
without the politics, putting all that aside, there's always the decent kindness of the individual.
Yeah, the human aspect, the human element. But so to say, did I feel a responsibility? I had done years of work on revisionism. I'd done about 2-3 years of work on revisionism before I stumbled across my grandfather's book. And then, wow, did that hit me like a hammer blow between the eyes. So, even if everything in Grandad's book isn't perfectly right, my God, it's eye-opening, particularly when you've gone down that route and you stumble across it for the first time, and then you suddenly realize, or the second time and read it properly, and you realize, wow, what the hell was Grandad into? And so, I do feel
precisely, but then
pick up the flag and carry on.
Yeah,
of course I do.
But I think that, Steve, you've come to a similar point in life, even though we've come from very different. I mean, I've never been in the army or anything like that. As myself, you realise the big problem is just one word: government. We could do without government, because when you look at it, more people have been killed by their own governments than all the wars put together. They're lethal. They're deadly. We don't need them.
I mean, we can put a figure on that. By the way, hello, Maleficus, and I've been listening intently into the chat this evening. It's been really interesting. I thought with Paul Anorak dived off stage, I thought I'd tie in.
You're
and
more than welcome on.
But thank you. But to put a figure on what government, and this is actions outside of conflict, or actions that are attributed to combat anyway, is 262 million deaths in the last 100 years by the actions of government. That includes things like starvation. So this is what
government... Can you run that again? 262 million.
Yeah. And I mean, all of these are well documented. If we and I mean, your guest this evening has done extraordinary amounts of history research, and many of these figures can be researched readily in history books, such as Red China, Nazi Germany, and instances such as Stalin's Russia. This is extraordinary amounts of people, yet nobody seems to bat an eyelid when you wedge these figures in front of people. These are absolutely outstanding amounts of people killed by the actions of government, yet people seem to think that if we didn't have government, then violent gangs would take over. Government is a violent gang. Government is a death cult. And until we start to really open our eyes and engage our understanding, this death cult will continue. And as we can see what's happening in the news today, or in the world in recent years, this death cult is just making even more of a name for itself.
You're right. I mean, this thing in Venezuela, I don't know about you, but I just find it a bit weird. It looks like a stage play. It looks like some sort of effeminate director came along and said, "Okay, lovies, stand by. Here we go. Action." I mean, surely they captured the president of Venezuela.
That was just a Mickey Mouse stage production.
This was
just Hollywood production. I mean, there's always elements of realism. So there's real events take place, and if there's statistics for casualties or deaths, then these are likely to be, there certainly might have been inflated or deflated, depending on what the message wants to be. But there's definitely people killed and injured in these events. I'm not sure about what's gone on in Venezuela, for example, but this is just the New World Order to take over a country and the assets of this particular country. Let's say it's probably lithium, cobalt, and oil. And I've already seen figures today about how many barrels of oil and how many trillions of dollars the oil in Venezuela is worth. Now, what's Trumpy knickers doing with all of that? And is this for the benefit of the world? I don't think so. This is just the New World Order unleashing its death cult strategy again.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same old playbook. I mean, if you'll notice, I mean, I've said this a few times on different shows, but the whole excuse for the war in Ukraine was the Donbass region, and the indigenous Russians were being butchered and killed by the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government, which is exactly the same playbook, if you think about it, as the Danzig corridor.
Yes.
And Germany.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly
the same playbook used to kick off a massive, basically a meat grinder to chew up a whole load of innocent people, because there's never any guilty people, or very rarely guilty people sent to war, not guilty for the wars anyway. So.
Well, this is what I was saying the other day. They want a war with Russia. Here, Keir Starmer. Doesn't matter how fit he is. There's your rifle. There's all your army fatigues. Sod off and come back when it's finished. That's what the attitude should be, because when you look at, for example, the First World War, they tried asking veterans what it was actually about, and none of them could answer it because it was so complicated. What was the First World War about? You can't answer it unless you go and look at the money situation. Then you'll find out what it's about. I mean, some Ferdinand assassinated in Serbia. And it started as, I mean, we're supposed to believe this domino effect. Oh yeah. Now the Americans.
It's simply agitation caused in one place, in order for it to snowball through, quote unquote, governmental decisions. And of course, it's not governments. It's the money power. It's the money power. It's one wallet. Literally one wallet. As Grandad said at the beginning of his book, I said at the beginning of the show, why is it? So at the very beginning of his book, we've on the little inside of the cover, it says, the author of this book was a regular soldier who served with distinction in the South African War and in the First World War. When he retired from the army due to wounds received on active service, he settled down in an English country village and began to study politics and economics. He wanted to know why honest Tommy Atkins had been compelled to fight the peaceful Boer farmers and enable an international diamond syndicate to gain control of the South African mines. Why 10 million men should have been slaughtered in the First World War, described as the war to end all wars, when the subsequent peace treaty so obviously sowed the seeds for the second and more terrible conflict. Why the banks of the world create money lavishly out of nothing to finance these wars, and yet for peace, credit is immediately restricted. So, as I say, they ferment these silly little problems in various places, and they always get some nasty agitator to go in and do the dirty work. I mean, look at the whole Geispan thing over in Paris when he shot that guy, and it kicked off what ended up known as Kristallnacht in Germany. So all these silly little convoluted things that give them excuses on a much wider scale to achieve their ends. And again, it's always the Hegelian dialectic. It's always, we know what the solution is. We know what solution we want to put in place. What problems can we cause so that people will accept the solution?
You're right.
To fast track a little bit, unless society comes to a higher level of consciousness through understanding morality, this will continue forever and ever. If we want to put an end to war, we need to put an end to government. It's really that simple. Yet most people can't stomach that understanding because they believe it to be necessary, and they believe that anarchy is a violent form of chaos, which of course is another illusion that society are ill-informed about or misguided about. This is why society really needs to have a moral understanding. It needs to have a moral education so they can come to this understanding, create the wisdom necessary to generate the solutions that society so desperately needs. Government is a death cult. It always will be. They use organizations such as NATO, who use a model known as the conflict continuum. Now, if we look at that word in a little bit more detail, continuum, that means it's a never-ending cycle. It will always continue. conflict. Why? Because that is their business model. I mean, Eric talks about usury scammers. That's what the usury scammers want. They want a cycle of war to feed their banking industry, their financial machine, the mechanism. War is the way that this is produced. If we want to put an end to war, which I used to be a soldier, and obviously when I joined as the army, I had a slightly different understanding of what I do now, because I was essentially massively brainwashed by and deluded by society. The norms of society are brainwashed. The normality. We need to step out of that understanding and raise our consciousness based on a moral understanding.
You're right. I mean, Douglas McGregor. Totally sorry. Carry on, mate. Sorry. Carry on.
I totally agree. The biggest problem you've got is that really everyone is sucked in. Everyone has now been sucked into this easy life where everything's handed to them on a platter. The idea of actually going out and growing your own vegetables is abhorrent to most people. And you've got the whole problem that everyone's moaning about this digital ID coming in, right? It's already here. Everyone's on their mobile phones. They're already sat in their own cage and they don't even realize it.
I agree. Right. Yeah.
Spot on.
I mean, even without the digital ID, we've still got things like passports, driving licenses, certificates for this, it's passwords for this, that, and the other. It's never ending. I mean, it's complicated enough just trying to do a transaction with the bank without having to draw blood in the situation. So you're exactly right. We might not have digital ID per se, but we've still got the same amounts or equivalent levels of third-party input into the way our lives are dictated. Now, we will never achieve a free society. I mean, there's a lot of people in the truth and freedom community whose sole purpose is to develop freedom. Well, we'll never develop freedom as long as we've got somebody dictating the terms and conditions of the conduct of our lives. And that, obviously, that interloper is government. So you might have gathered I'm not a big fan of the government. And one of the reasons for that is simply because I believe war to be abhorrent and it needs to be stopped. And and freedom, of course, is something that's essential in society. And without freedom, what we've got is just evil taking charge and ownership of our lives.
You're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. And I mean, the other thing that they've done is they've eroded self-respect, and they're imposing, shall we say, a fake respect on, but by punishing people, and that's wrong because people. I mean, for example, anywhere you go on public transport, you see a sign: "Please vacate this seat to an elderly or disabled person." Well, once upon a time, you never saw a sign like that because people were brought up correctly, and if they saw a disabled or elderly person, they would offer the seat automatically. Why do you need a bloody sign to tell you? Surely that should be an automatic thing. Go to a post office. We will not accept any, aggression or bad language or anything like that. And I usually make a joke of it and say, well, I've come in here for an argument. That's a shame. I'm sorry about that,
I mean, right room for an argument?
Yeah, I want an argument. I mean, can I have a 5-minute one, please? But the thing is, why are we got all these poxy signs everywhere telling you what you can do and what you can't do? And what brought it home to me many years ago, I saw a documentary about a chap, Canadian fella, came over here and he wanted to canoe from London to the source of the Thames, up the River Thames. And he got in his canoe and he said, I can't believe it. He said, the amount of signs telling you what not to do. He said, he said, look, everywhere, signs, don't do this, do this, don't. What's wrong with this society? It shows that there is something wrong with society, that you've got to, as I say, to have a sign up telling you to vacate the seat to a disabled or elderly person.
You've hit the nail on the head, Eric, because it's what is being eroded actually. What has really been eroded, particularly since the end of the Second World War, is is communities.
Yes.
There is no there's no viable communities anymore. And but even in my later years, so that, I used to enjoy going to the pub. I was a smoker. I stopped going to the pub when they brought in the smoking ban. And there you go. There's another section of society that doesn't want to participate, or they're ostracized outside. And now it's got so expensive to go and buy a pint of beer that all our local pubs are shutting down because they can't afford to stay open, because no one can afford to go in there for more than the beer. So this whole thing about a lack of cohesion in society, and a lack of, because we should be looking at our past civilization in Britain, we should be really at the pinnacle of a trusting society. But because, and I'm not going to put it all down to immigration, because it's not all down to that. It's down to people being selfish and staying in their own cage and not wanting to look up from the pavement. The immigration hasn't helped, I have to say. It's been a big impedance on local communities. But the main attack on local communities was first destroying the churches. Now they've destroyed the pubs. So where are all your local people going to get together and put the world to rights and say, well, I don't think such a... Where are they going to go and reach a consensus? What, on the end of their mobile phone with their mate in Australia? It's not going to work.
That's right. Yes, you're spot on. And also, with these little sort of communities, it's like the truth movement. You'll always have some bozo wanting to be the head of something. You'll always have that. But if you go to somewhere where someone is the head and you don't like them, you can go somewhere else. This is the thing. Whereas when you've got government, you can't go elsewhere because you've got this, arsehole who's right at the top. Whereas, you look at the Yellow Vests, how successful they were before the lockdown came.
And they just...
That's right. And they were infiltrated.
Beware the infiltrators, as you said. Yeah, absolutely.
And you think about it, the Boers. Now, the Boer War, the Boers didn't really have a command structure as such. They worked in groups of 3, and they held one of the most advanced armies down for years. 3 years. And
there's an excellent book you can find on Archive, and I recommend it to anyone that wants any decent insight on the Boer War. From the Boer side, there's a brilliant book by Commander De Wet called 3 Years' War. And it is a totally, totally honest account. He went from being just a standard chap on, you had to turn up with a horse with a week's rations and your rifle. He went from that to commanding something like a third of the army. So,
really?
And it's so insightful, so very, very insightful. And yeah, they were literally working on their toes, and they were what's the word? They were improvising all the time.
That's right. And
to get a group of guys who didn't even know each other, let alone, Steve, you've been in the military, so that the esprit de corps and all that kind of thing. Your man next to you. The people that you trained with and everything, it's everything, isn't it, in your unit? Whereas the Boers didn't even have that, and they still managed. And I think that their army was something like a third of, or not even a third of the size of the amount of forces that the British put in there.
They was running rings around the British forces, and the thing is, I heard one bloke say that they used to say, the attitude was, we're going to go and have an attack tonight. So I'm not very good at South African accent. And this bloke says, well, I got to go and milk me cows. Oh, all right, then I'll my brother will turn up as well instead. And it was as loose as that. But the thing is, they knew they were fighting on their own land. That's another big difference. The British forces weren't fighting on their own land. And that is a very, very big difference. And this is where an attacking country or attacking force is at a disadvantage, because the locals know. And I worked with an Irish chap who was in the emergency forces during World War II in Ireland, and they was going to introduce conscription in Ireland, and they threw it out because it's not democratic. And what they had similar to the Dad's Army, this sort of home guard, and they went home each night, but they were taught to guard their own area, because they said that they were very worried about the British coming over the border to steal the food. And they knew that they would not be able to hold the British Army. They just would not be able to do it. So they decided to use guerrilla warfare instead. And, and because guerrilla warfare is extremely effective. You look at how it tied down the British Army in Ireland, the Boer War. It's
the Americans in Vietnam.
That is a typical example. And what they had to do is slash and burn. That's where it was invented, in the Boer War, where they rounded up their families, burnt down their crops, and opened up concentration camps, because the British were the first to invent concentration camps. And they were starved to death.
There is a rumour that the Spanish did it first, before the British. But, officially, on paper, the British are definitely the first, because it was the first lot of concentration camps to actually be put into the media.
Yes.
So I've just put a chat message up in the Rumble chat there, or it might be the YouTube chat actually. So it's meant to say 3 Years War by Christian Rudolph de Wet. So all you've really got to remember is Christian Rudolph de Wet. You can find the book on archive.org, and it's a fantastic read. Really is absolutely fantastic read. Very insightful.
Now Stephen Truseek said, "Are the Boers? No, they're not bush boring. Are the Boers Dutch? Yes, they're of Dutch origin. They live in South Africa." But they speak Afrikaans, which is similar to Dutch, but not quite.
If you can speak Dutch, you can understand Afrikaans.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's a bit like Scottish and English, really. It's a sort of a big accent on it, but you can understand. That's the thing. So a Glaswegian, hey, Jimmy. And you know what the Glaswegian kiss is, don't you? But really, somebody, I think it was, who's that chap, UK column? Brian Gerrish. He mentioned something which was very interesting. And he said, we need a kind of guerrilla, but not warfare. A situation where people who are armed with information, that's the most important thing, armed with information. There's groups now taken on their local councils, armed with information, that are actually running rings around them. And that is the secret, to keep on irritating the powers that be, armed with information. So you don't harm people, you harm them psychologically with the information. And I think that's an idea.
Or you do what Steve's saying, and it's a mindset first, and you just bypass them altogether and say, "No, I'm not interested in any of your rules, mate. No, we got our own."
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I agree entirely with that. It's a mindset thing, and if the mindset is in the right place, where it needs to be, then government and local councils will. Not only that, local councils, government, police, and military will be overruled, outnumbered, and outgunned. I mean, I am obviously for peaceful coexistence. I'll maintain that, but I will also caveat that by saying, as much as I agree in principle with Brian Gerrish's points, if that's what he said about, taking things on peacefully, and I know you're big into this as well, Eric, everything peacefully. What I will say to that is, I will fully back up anyone who takes physical action against an oppressive force such as, and let's just say what the British government now, treasonous war criminals, warmongers, criminals of the highest order. And we only have to look at the recent health hoax to realise what that's all about. Now, morally speaking, when it comes to the brass roots, or the brass tacks, the roots of morality, we are, as the human race, as members of society, as individual citizens, within our moral right to bear arms and to deter a physical known hostilities from taking place. So acts of, I'm just going to use the British government. I could practically use any government on earth right now in any country. If any country is using forceful, deceitful, manipulative means to oppress, coerce, or otherwise treat citizens the way that they're doing, then morally speaking, people are rightfully capable of bearing arms to deter that situation. That's acts of aggression. It's known as the principle of self-defense. And this is one of the things that society needs to really kind of understand. It doesn't necessarily have to come to violence and aggression, but if we don't understand that we are duty bound by the laws of morality to take action when necessary, then we'll forever be victims. And that's what's one of the problems in society. We act like victims, and that's the way we're treated.
You're spot on there, but apparently now, according, I believe it's the English Constitution Group, Graham Hart. Now, I don't want to misrepresent him, misphrase him or anything like that. So this is from my view, from what I've heard from him, but I could be wrong. So you've got to hear it from him. So, and I believe that under the English, not British, English Constitution, we have the right to bear arms. Still do.
Yeah.
It's never changed. We have got the right to do that. And I think he got someone off who was caught with arms, and he got them off because it is still our duty to bear arms. And this is the thing in America. They've still got the right to bear arms, even though in New York and California, they're trying to stop it.
In fact, all citizens have got every right to bear arms in order to preserve their own life. It is, like, as I've just said, it is a moral duty of every living man or woman to deter aggression. And if that requires the use of physical force, then so be it. And as we've determined, governments, the world over, have openly displayed hostile intent, aggression, treasonous war crimes, and crimes against humanity against their own citizenry. Therefore, we could have been engaging upon force as required to deter the little things that they've been injecting people with years ago, but we're not even there yet. Why? Because we're not there yet. We need to have a clear understanding of morality. So we need to know two things in particular. One is the non-aggression principle. The other is the self-defense principle. Now, these things are very simple to understand. Every man and woman and child in the world should understand these. In fact, essentially, we all do. We have this inherent understanding from birth to know these two principles, but this gets brainwashed out of us by the manipulation of groups such as government.
Spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the definition, or at least the government definition of terrorism, is essentially using violence or coercive means or fear to achieve political ends. Which, when you look at how these people have responded, particularly 2020, without, because I know we're on YouTube and stuff, but particularly in 2020, and this brings me back to the whole mindset thing. I got a friend down in Australia, who I talk to on my mobile phone. No, I'm just joking. Got a friend down in Australia. When all that kicked off, he said, crikey, he said, back in my pa's day, he said, you got all the police in the village enforcing all this nonsense. He said, back in my pa's day, he said, all the guys would have, met up in the local pub and said, right, we're going to go down and see the chief of police. And you're going to enforce what law? Harold, what law are you going to enforce? Oh, sorry, guys, but I was just told to from the... So that is community driven. And I just think things should be organized in parishes. Sod the government. You don't need any of that nonsense. People, like water finds its level, people naturally find... nobody wants to be ostracized. One of the things about conforming in this world is you've got this whole thing about, I've got to be slim, or I can't be fat, or whatever, because I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want to be cast out from the herd. Now, that's because they're all looking towards this huge mouthpiece that's been in all our lives for so long. If it was left to local community, and I think the one way we could have probably banished COVID from Cornwall was just by shutting down the 2 TV transmitters. I don't think there would have been nearly as many infections. But,
that's a good one. I like that.
It's true. It's true.
Yes, it's right. Yeah, you're right.
and I'm not saying, people didn't die. I'm just saying they relabeled the flu as COVID, and this year they've relabeled COVID as the flu. Isn't that amazing? We've gone full circle.
Really? What about bird flu? I mean, I haven't seen any birds coughing or anything like that.
Again, another thing. Achieving political ends through the manipulation of fear. So they're essentially, under their own rules, are a terrorist organization in that respect. If you look at and the COVID, the COVID inquiry, all that nonsense, complete whitewash, as of course we expected it to be, because you've got that small percentage of society that feels that if someone's been found accountable somewhere, they're not quite sure who they are, but at least something's been done about it, and someone's shouting our corner. Huge pile of money, of taxpayers' money, just got poured down the drain or into someone's pocket. Oh yeah, there's a thought. So
you're right.
As I say,
you're spot on.
Organised by parishes, and then as I say, people's will and their need to fit in, which is currently being used against them, would actually work in their favour, because they'd be involved in their local community. And I don't mean in a sort of namby-pamby way of like putting on pantomimes at Christmas. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, you go and get your milk from the local farmer. The local farmer's in a bit of a mix, and he supplies our milk and some of our bacon. Maybe some of us should just go down there and give him a hand. No, we don't want any money for it. We need to know that the bacon's going to keep coming.
That's what we want. That's exactly what we want.
True anarchy, and that's anarchy. That is.
And I'll tell you something else.
Without government.
Well, you was talking about the First World War earlier, and people have been told a lie of how the First World War came to an end. And do you know how it came to an end? Very few people. It's because the French army mutinied en masse and the German navy mutinied en masse. That's what brought it to an end. And what happened, it started with the French, as they marched past their generals to the front, they made bleating noises like sheep.
This is what let's just say the British Army out. In fact, I would say every army in the world needs to do this. But I'll just pick on the British Army simply because I used to be a member. When I was a brainwashed order follower numpty, I might add, even though I enjoyed my career, I enjoyed my job, I had good relationships with my colleagues, and I admire and respect the colleagues I work for. However, now, in light of information, and again, I'm not the world's most most knowledgeable political
leading authority.
Yeah, and that I'm not the leading authority on politics, history, etc. But one thing I will say, there's enough information to determine that World War I was a complete fabricated, let's just say, hoax built upon false flags and misinformation. World War II was exactly the same. So was Afghanistan, so was Iraq, so was Libya, so was practically every conflict on earth. There's enough information from the likes of Smedley Butler, if anyone was familiar with him. Even SAS bloke Ben Griffin, he's kind of faded out of the limelight. He practically blew the whistle on the fact that Iraq was complete. In fact, militarism, that's what it is. It's militarism. That's the word he would use. If we don't understand that this is all fabricated, war is fabricated as part of militarism for money making and profiteering for the military-industrial complex, not for the well-being of the taxpayer, I might add. It's for the profiteering of the big elite groups who run the world. The British Army, getting back to the British Army, everyone in the British Army now needs to do exactly what you've just said there, Eric, which is
mutiny.
Basically mutiny. You need to leave. You need to make sure you've got another in fact, don't make sure you've got another job to go to. Do the right thing. Leave. Down tools. And this goes for the police as well. The police are war criminals. They're aiding and abetting the British government, who are treasonous war criminals. So that there are serious indictments treason and war crimes, if you are aiding and abetting them, trust me, you're not standing on the right side of history. So that's every serving police officer and every serving member of the British Armed Forces and beyond. And I've said this many times, down tools, take your rifle home, because you might need that for when things get ugly, if things get ugly, and basically leave. Do not pass go.
And also, when you think about it, what is money? Money is a means of exchange. That's all it is, because before that it was barter. Now, if we have farms around where we live, where we can go and we can trade, all right, I mean, a farmer might have umpteen woolly jumpers knitted for him or whatever, but even you can invent your own currency. It doesn't really matter, because, I mean, we already have a currency, and that is silver coinage. That is a currency. It has a value to it. You know, you give loads of change and silver and that, but you can use silver, not necessarily gold because it's so expensive, but you can use almost anything as a currency, as a value of something. You know, for example, like you're saying, suppose you've got a wife and 2 children, for example, and you think, well, how am I going to pay the bills? Well, okay, electricity bill, they can shove that up their jacksie. And the community would say, right, what we'll do, we'll have our own power generation. So sod off. We'll have our own power generation. Water, we'll see how we can supply our own. Clear off. We don't want it.
There needs to be a worldwide revolution, really.
Yes.
And a revolution of mind in order to put morality back into these organisations.
Sounds like an awful lot of hassle, Steve.
It is.
But it would work to be more independent. I mean, look,
that's the mentality of your average person, isn't it? Oh, it sounds like a lot of hassle.
Yeah.
Can you not just leave me with my mobile phone and my creature comforts and take away my freedoms, please?
Yeah, but then you look at supermarkets. You look at everything around supermarkets. You walk into the doors of a supermarket, and what have you got? High carbohydrate crap right in front of you, chocolates, shit, and things like that. And you see people that are obese walking around, filling their supermarket trolleys with the worst crap, which is unhappy that you could ever wish to think of. Now, you go back, say, 80 years when you didn't have supermarkets, or 70 years even. No, and people were slim. Why? Because they had a proper diet, and they had protein. They had less carbohydrates. I mean, sweets were rationed until 1954. It was only in 1954 that sweets came off of rationing. So kids didn't had sweet stuff when they were younger. And you look at the 1920s and 30s. People were slim, and they were quite fit. And I still believe that people are not living as long as they used to do, because I know in the early 70s, and I'm showing my age now, it was common for people to live well over 100. How many times do you hear someone living over 100 now? It's quite rare. And I think it's because of all the shit that people are pouring down their throats. I really do.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah. Just can I pick up on the points you've made there, Maleficus? I mean, I entirely agree with you. It's an awful lot of hassle. Because our
I'm just playing devil's advocate,
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with you, and which is why, I do try to back up some of the things I say with. I mean, I can do it in depth, but it takes a long time, which is why I run like social media channels to try and give further information and education on some of these aspects. I mean, I speak publicly about morality. I talk about something called natural law and the occult, which is a body of science which explains how the human mind works. It explains how society is the way it is. And I mean, it goes into the depth of the causal factors. The root causal factor of all the problems in society is based upon immorality. Now, I could go deeper into that and explain that the immoral aspects of society are actually predicated on the tenets of Satanism. And again, which probably sounds like shock horror to a lot of people, but Essentially, anybody who supports government also supports a religious ideology of Satanism. Why? Because they use the same religious tenets in order to operate. It can't operate any other way. So if you are a government advocate, you are an advocate of Satanism. Again, my channel, my social media channels explain this in more detail. But if we've established that government operate by using terrorism as one of their modus operandi, and they're also war criminals, then if we want to talk about morality, for example, and we want a more moral society, because morality and freedom are directly correlated, you can't have one without the other. If we want freedom and we want to have a more peaceful coexistence in society, we need a more moral society. Now, we can't have a moral society if we advocate for Satanism. We can't have a moral society if we advocate for terrorists and authority, the same, and war criminals, which is government. So government needs to be a thing of the past. And in order to come to that conclusion, and I totally agree with what you're saying, it sounds like an awful lot of hassle. Yes, it is. It's a lot of hassle because a lot of the societal norms that we take for granted will have to kind of radically change. But it starts here, and it starts by understanding morality in more detail.
Yeah, yes, absolutely bang on. I cannot fault what you've said at all. You know, I mean, going back to Grandad's speech in 1936, one of the things he was saying in the speech, because it was addressed to a congregation, and he said, you know, one of the things I hear is people saying, you know, how can it be that, you know, everyone's struggling in such hardships? How can the Lord let this happen? And that kind of thing. And in the speech, he says it's because you're following their law, not his law.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the point you're hitting on, isn't it?
It is. But Paul Stubbs said something rather interesting here. He said, we have been controlled at least since 562 when a comet devastated Britain. Yes, that was said by two historians, wasn't it, who had now passed away, on Richard D. Hall's show. We weren't invaded by angels and Saxons. Angles, sorry, not angels, what I'm talking about. Angles and Saxons. They just wandered into a wasteland. Yes, there's evidence of that because I think it's up in Edinburgh, wasn't it? There's rocks that are fused together with the heat. And this country, and the survivors were in Wales and France. And very few.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, we was. Yes, it was a comet that hit Great Britain.
No, I haven't studied back that far, I have to say. So.
No, I'm more of a modern history person. But see, the thing is, we have selective history in this country. Selective. Now, I want to know the truth, however ugly it is. And I want to know the truth because I think to know the truth, to be told a pack of lies is disrespect to people that suffered years ago. In wherever they were, whatever they're doing. And this is what gets me about the government. Why are these secrets locked away for years and years and years and years and years? For example, you know, when, who's that chap that came over by plane in 1941?
Hess.
Rudolf Hess. That's right. Hess. Did you know that is still locked away and it will be locked away until 2041.
Wow.
Secrets, why he came over.
Then you think though, you know, we had 50-year block put on most of the things from World War II. Yeah. When Dunblane happened up in Scotland, they instantly put 100-year block on it.
Wow,
that's weird, isn't it? Isn't it very weird? Another brilliant book called Dunblane Unburied by a woman called Sandra Utley, who was the second paramedic response team, the relief team.
Really?
Well worth a read. Dunblane Unburied. But they put 100-year block on that.
100-year block?
Yeah, 100-year secrets. You know, so nobody nobody's going to be alive to remember it when the truth comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Matilda says something here. I went to church regularly. When I fell on hard times, I stopped going. not one person from the church has been to see if I'm okay or needed help. And
the church isn't a building. Sadly, the church is, the church is just a building, should I say?
That's right. And yet I cleaned homes for them, volunteered at faiths, etc. I've got something about born again Christians, and I'm probably going to affect people now. Genuine religious people keep their faith to themselves, and they are genuine. But what gets me is these people that keep saying, well, I saved this person. I did this. I'm so marvelous. I'm doing this. I'll do this to do that. They're hiding something. The so-called openly do-gooders, they're hiding something. Because the genuine do-gooders, they don't say much. They keep quiet and just get on with it. And that's it. And I found the most, shall we say, spiritual people, the people that keep their religions to themselves. They are generally the genuine ones. That's what I've personally found, But I don't know whether you've found this at all, that sometimes you meet some of these born-again types and they're absolutely the most horrendous people you could ever wish or not wish to meet. Have you found this at all?
Are you asking me or Steve?
Anybody, Steve?
Well, I've got to be honest. At one point, when I was about 17, no, I would have been about 18, 19. I did go through a period of avidly studying the Bible and actually, used to go to church and all that kind of thing. And I found exactly the same as what your listener said. The church was full of a bunch of hypocrites who didn't practice what they preached. And I got very, very disillusioned with it. But it hasn't actually taken away. I wouldn't say I'm a practicing Christian now. But I would have said at the time that I was a born-again Christian simply because that was the label that had been passed about or bounded about, because that simply means someone that wasn't a Christian before and they are now. But it's like born-again non-smokers, isn't it? They're the worst.
That's right. Look at Stephen Truthseeker. He said, I've been homeless and I've met these fake do-gooders. Yes. The world's full of fake do-gooders.
I mean, I study religion, particularly Christianity, simply because, one of my interests, my main interest, you could say, is what's known as the occult. And again, just as a quick clarification on that, the word means hidden. It doesn't necessarily mean it's alluding to evil and witchcraft or sorcery. It just means hidden, and it relates to information, often of a supernatural or religious context. But on that understanding, religion, the word religion means to hold back. To hold back from what? To hold back from progress and understanding. To be bound by faith and belief in order to not follow logic and reason or truth and principle. Now, religion itself, although I haven't got anything particularly derogatory to say about anybody who goes to church or follows or studies religion, what I will say is there is a massive difference between what's known as esoteric and exoteric in terms of religion. Exoteric is available to everybody, the outer circle, you could say. Esoteric Christianity, for example, is massively different to what the stories, the allegories, the metaphors in biblical scripture will teach and will preach. It is simply about how to achieve spiritual enlightenment through alchemy, through alchemical processes, and having an understanding of the science of the heavens, i.e. astrology, and the science of the human body. So this is what the allegory of all the legends and stories in the Bible relate to. But unless you study esotericism and the occult, you will be blind to that understanding. So 95% of the world are walking around with their eyes shut tight. They're touching the books in the library, but they've never read a single page. And that's the state of the world.
Well, Stephen Truthseeker said the real God, natural law, is not a person. I agree. I think I know it's some sort of energy. What that energy is, I don't know. But there is something that we all are part of that God. We are sort of part of it. And but I think that with government, it breeds bad behaviour. It actually breeds it from stage one, because it's taking the response. It's someone saying, I'll take care of your life for you. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. And it's a pack of lies. It's like someone coming into a pub and offering you a genuine Rolex watch for £10. Well, you know it's going to be a bloody fiddle, or it's been stolen, or it's just, there's something not quite right there. An honest person wouldn't do that. But this is the problem that we've got, But what's this Aunt Sally said? In my honest opinion, being a true Christian is all about following Jesus and his words. Okay. End of. Virtually all existing churches are apostate. That's very interesting. But,
Sorry, was that previous comment from Aunt Sally?
Yes.
About following Jesus?
Yes.
Well, I mean, as much as I appreciate and admire Aunt Sally, I'm afraid the esoteric understanding is vastly different. So I'm going to guess. I mean, I'm only guessing because I can't read between the lines of the comment there. But if, as a Christian, you follow the person, the historical person called Jesus, well, Jesus, in the esoteric, the true sense of what Christianity is, the esoteric Christian understanding, Jesus was not a human being. It was not a person who preached the gospel to his disciples. It is a representation of the Son, and the Son is also a representation of man at his elevated consciousness. So we have all got Christ inside. We just need to wake it up through the alchemical process. It's all written in scripture. It's all there, but it needs to be decoded by having an understanding from people who can teach the esoteric understanding, and not the exoteric Christian gospel messages that are false and misleading.
Well, we've got two. That's interesting. Thanks. Sorry, I talked over you. Terribly sorry, mate. Carry on.
No, that was me. Obviously, some people will be either horrified or less than happy with the answers I've given. This is nothing personal, by the way.
Well, it's just nice we can discuss these like decent. I mean, this is why. I'd like to actually get on the show a very religious person and an atheist, and let them talk politely to each other, but Jesus' words are often just plain, simple, good advice. Yes, most of the Bible is just plain, simple, good advice. I think according to, is it Paul English, the Bible is really like a sort of a law book. I'm sorry, mate, if I misquoted you there, but now where are we now?
Eric, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Hello, Patrick. We were talking about religion and
I had to
Jesus and that. And
that's a fun topic.
Please do. And can I just say this one thing? Stephen Truthicus says Jesus is an Illuminati myth. So there we go. So I've upset everybody. It's not me. I didn't say that. I'm just repeating what somebody else has said. So far.
All right. I just want to give one quote that comes to mind about this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say the quote, and then you can guess who said it. It was, "All empires are criminal conspiracies." All empires are criminal conspiracies. Yeah. That was St. Augustine in his book, The City of God, back in, I think, the 300s. Yeah.
Wow. That is really advanced.
So to me, that's like what you say. Governments are the problem. They're the criminal conspiracy.
Mm.
Well, if you look at, let's just say if Jesus, let's just take Jesus as a historical person. Well, who did he chuck out of the, he chucked out the money launderers, basically chucked out church, state, and bank.
The people trying to sell church goods, the spiritual goods for money. Yeah. So
not only that, there is laws of God, known as natural law, the laws of God. It's got several other names: cosmic law, God's law, consequentialism, the law of cause and effect, natural law. These are the laws of God, the laws that govern the spiritual aspects of the universe. Yet very few people, and no disrespect to any religious group, but why do Christians, for example, not follow the laws of God, yet they'll quite happily hand over their tax money to go and fund people like Donald Trump bombing the crap out of Venezuela, for example, or any other conflict in history without any thought for what's going on behind the scenes? I mean, is this what God wants?
No, they don't understand what they profess to believe. And exactly. The word faith is the Hebrew word for understanding. So if you lack faith, you lack understanding in a strict literal sense. That's what the word faith means. It's your understanding of things. So that's why we've got plenty of people who are ill-educated and lacking wisdom as a consequence, because they're not searching out that wisdom. Yeah. They're not reading into things and finding parables, and finding the meaning of parables and stories that they're told, and they just get along. It's like most people.
Well, my father often said, I'm not sure if it's Sicily or Italy, but it doesn't matter. It was during the war. And there was a Catholic padre that came round. This is any of my men round here, and there's a couple of Catholics amongst them. As you know, he said, and there was a pocket of troops ahead of where they were, he said, I must visit them. And they said, I wouldn't advise that, Father. This road is heavily bombarded, and it was being heavily bombarded. He said, don't worry, I'll be safe. And this padre walked down the road, and the Germans stopped firing immediately. And he went to see the men at the front, and then we walked back, and they went, that is the power of, maybe it's faith, whoever. I mean, he's in his full gear, but that just shows you respect people have.
He's got his guardian angel. He had his guardian angel.
He had his guardian angel, yeah. They said, they thought, that's it, he's a goner. Because everybody that tried to go along this road was dead. There's pothole everywhere.
I think we've all kind of been in a situation like that where it's like, I should have been dead, or that kind of a situation where, the hazard was so great that you couldn't overcome it, and yet somehow you do.
I think we did have a sort of religious talk, didn't we, on one of my shows? But and it's nice because I want to prove that people with differing views can politely put those views over and have time to put them over fully, and the other person puts the opposite side in, and we did that with flat earth and round earth, and I think it worked very, very well. I like to do that type of thing, but the big problem, as I say, I actually do believe that governments are demonic psychopaths. They are a different breed of people, and the only way forward is to put them on a separate island away from us and treat them as a different sort of species, which Dr. Hare, who's a leading authority on psychopaths, has come very close to admitting. And I'm not sure, does it say anything in the Bible about that, about the evil ones or the different species of human?
To not keep company with evildoers? Plenty of times you're warned about the company that you keep, that they're the ones that influence your thoughts and your actions.
Are the fools you associate yourself with.
Right. That's why parents should really keep an eye on who their children associate with, because there are plenty of scoundrels out there that let their children do whatever they want to do, and as a consequence, they grow up to be scoundrels, because they associate with them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Paul Stubbs has said something that's interesting here. Jesus was a manifestation of the divine, as are we all. Yes, I think that's interesting. What would you say to that, Patrick?
Jesus is a manifestation of the divine? Yeah, because he's divine and man. That's the Catholic Church's teaching. He's both God and man, consubstantial with the Father and the Holy Spirit.
Now, Yorkshire Rose, I'm glad to hear Yorkshire Rose again. We haven't heard from you for a long time. I'm glad you're okay. Well, I hope you're okay. I'm a Christian, but don't attend any church. It is a personal relationship for me, and I live by the 2 great commandments as best as I can. Nothing that has been said offends me. Well, that's how it should be, really. We're all moving forward. We're all learning things. I mean, this is what gets me when people say, "Oh, I'm part of this group and I do this, I do that." It's like politics. You change, you learn more, and this is, we find out. I mean, I know more after this show than before the show. We all have. We all know more after the show than before. Now, Aunt Sally said Christians do not follow the law of God. Christians who do not follow the law of God have failed him. This is why the gate to heaven is narrow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Again, just on Christianity. In fact, you know what? Just in religion in general, because all the Abrahamic religions have got. I'm obviously giving a very short, response to this. This is a very, very deep subject, and of course, it's hard to portray such a huge amount of information in a short sentence. But there is elements of morality and elements of alchemy in all the Abrahamic religions, but they have to be looked at in depth. You have to seek the wisdom in it, not just be told it by somebody. But what I will say is, if anyone's really interested in learning more about their religious faith, is to look into the works of Santos Bonacci, who and there's many
I've
others.
Heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, I know you and I might have different understandings or different points of view, Patrick. And again, I like to think people aren't offended by the nature of the conversations I have, because this is all a learning process, just as Eric says. Santos Bonacci gives good information on esoteric Christianity, and I would just simply say, if anyone's unfamiliar with esoteric Christianity, for example, to look into it, to look into the I forget the name of the book. It's by Gaskell, which is it's basically a massive reference book about a little bit like Strong's Concordance, about what some of the scriptures actually relate to in an esoteric sense. And it is massively interesting when you realize what this means. And if anything, what it should do is empower you, empower the devotee into the understanding to become sovereign and to become Christ-like in his or her own life, in order to do the right thing, which is to follow the laws of God, which is based upon morality, to know the objective difference between right and wrong. And just as many of us have said, there's lots of people who claim to be religious, yet they're backing, funding, advocating for all the evils in this world by advocating and funding for groups like government.
You're right. Aunt Sally said, it took me a long time to find a church, and I did only recently. When I was sick with shingles, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, yes, you were, weren't you? And recently flu. Oh, my word, you've been through it. The pastor phoned me regularly and asked me if I needed help. That's what it should be. That is what the church should be. And, it helps everyone. And I know, is it the Hindus? I think they are. They have soup kitchens. And it doesn't matter what religion you are, they give away free soup to the poor. And is it Hindus or is it Sikhs? I can't remember. One of the two.
They should all be doing that, to be fair.
I agree with you. I think they should be doing that.
So should Christians.
Yeah.
Yes.
Almsgiving.
Yes. I think that what you were saying about communities, parish communities, this is what it should really be about. I mean, when you look at things like the NHS, which is National Health Service in this country, it's probably similar in America, although you haven't got an NHS. A doctor can be absolute crap, but get away with it. Whereas in a community, if a doctor was crap, he wouldn't last 5 minutes. They just wouldn't last.
They used to have house calls. They wouldn't get any house calls.
Same here. Same in this country. Yeah. And they used to get out. The doctor would go out at 1 o'clock in the morning to see their patients and things like that.
Right.
Don't any longer. You have to call A&E, and an ambulance comes along, picks you up. I suppose it's similar in the States. And when you look at hospitals, when you look at what the staff wear, they look as if they're dressed in their pajamas. Scruffy. It looks horrible.
The scrubs, they call them.
Yeah. It just. I mean, maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned, but you look at nurses, say, in the First World War. They certainly did look like nurses, didn't they? Beautifully dressed.
Yeah, even though they weren't qualified as such, Eric.
Yeah.
A lot of them were told. A lot of them were told that they basically told how to put a bandage on, and that was about it because they needed so many of them.
It's same now, though, isn't it? I mean, my sister and father witnessed, because my mum was going in to have a knee operation, 2 nurses trying to put a sling on a person, and they stuck it with sellotape. And when they walked out, it went. And luckily, there was a visitor in the hospital who was an ex-nurse and knew the old-fashioned and tied the sling up for the person who was in absolute agony. That's it.
It beggars belief, doesn't it? It beggars belief. Yeah. I go on a show with a guy called Blackbird 9 every so often, and he refers to these people as the white coats of Baphomet.
Yeah, Frederick Blackburn. Eric, you've been on with him. Yeah.
This is beautiful.
North Carolina.
When I worked at Greg's, that's a kind of shit. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Shall we say a rather how can I put it?
A very reputable pastry maker.
Yes. I was off ill, but rather than a pasta calling me, a pasty called me instead. Sorry.
If you're ill, you can't beat a good pasty.
That's right. But Greg's, I mean, they've sort of gone from unheard of to all over the world. Wherever you go in this country, you'll see a Greg's. You go to some shitty little town anywhere, and there's a Greg's there. And they're kind of, they're like a rash. They're sort of growing. Have you noticed that? They're popping up all over the place, or spots. Is it the same up north, Steve? Greg's, you sort of go, hang on, what's that shop?
Greg's actually was developed in the northeast, I believe. I believe it was
really.
I believe it was Gosforth in Newcastle. But if you look at the word, next time you see the sign, you'll notice that it's basically a cross with 4 orange squares. And obviously the word Greg's, now have a look at those. How many letter G's has it got? It's got 3, which resembles the number 6. 666. I mean, there's lots of other esoteric connections. You could say symbolic connections with Greg's. But it's a meteoric rise. I must admit, you cannot beat a pasty for £1.50 or whatever it is.
That's right. But what's in it, you just don't quite know. I mean, it's a mystery, isn't it? And it's sort of. But they actually sell Greg's stuff in Iceland, not the country, the actual supermarket. But
they haven't opened up a branch in Iceland, have they?
Well, they might do. They're every bleeding where. Actually, watch out, Patrick. Be very careful. You'll probably go down to town tomorrow and there's a bleeding Greg's opened up. Yeah. But now, this is Paul Stubbs said, the church gave soup to the Irish as long as you converted to their religion. Everyone else starved. What church was that? Was it C of E, was it? Or was it Catholic? I don't know. What religion was it? I don't know.
It reminds me of when the British were in India offering free transistor radios to anyone that was prepared to have a vasectomy.
Yes. Because
when my dad had a vasectomy, it was actually an Indian guy doing it, and he didn't have the nerve to ask him for his free transistor radio.
How many? Just out of interest, I mean, this goes out to anybody with a religious, understanding. How many gods is there? And if there's only one God, why is there more than one religion?
Because of man's stubbornness, I'd imagine. It's just
I would agree.
It's just like with government and like like we were talking about the city of God.
No, every government's different, Patrick. Every government's different. Honest.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm joking. I was being sarcastic.
As far as what St. Augustine says, he says there's the city of God, run off of God's law, and then there's the city of man, which is that's the will of a man, rather than any sort of higher form of law. So that's what we've got. Choice.
I mean, as you're probably well aware, I advocate for God's law, which is not my definition, but I use the terminology natural law, which is essentially the laws of God, how to be a moral human being and exist peacefully with other members of society by following. I mean, somebody mentioned the 2 commandments. I'm not sure what he or she was referring to, but there are 2 pillars of enlightenment, which relates to, as I said earlier, the self-defense principle and the non-aggression principle, i.e. do no harm, take no shit. And if you can live by that simple mantra, then we can exist peacefully as a combined society.
You remember the words of the Dire Straits record? Was it 2 men said they're Jesus? One of them must be wrong. And Aunt Sally said, last year my eldest, what is a gosh? A gosh. Nurse tripped on the pavement after a night shift, cut her forehead open and knocked herself out on the pavement in central London. A passerby called the ambulance. Now, this is interesting what she says next. And where are we? Hang on. They refused to come.
What?
Yes, I've heard this. That's it. And ambulances don't turn up anymore. That's right. You have old age pensioners waiting for sort of a day for an ambulance to come. They're so bad.
With enough money, they'd probably come.
Oh yeah.
I'm being, sarcastic.
I've just found out what GOSH is. Great Ormond Street Hospital. Sorry about that.
Yes, an acronym.
Yes. Well, no. The health service around here. I don't think you could call it a health service. If it wasn't so serious, it'd be a joke. It really would. I mean, it's slapstick. That's really what it is. Because everybody, the staff, all they're interested in is ticking boxes and passing responsibility over someone else. That's all they do. Just, okay, So, patient, is he dead? Yes, right, dead. Tick, tick, tick. Could you sign this, please? Oh, no, you can't because you're dead, right. Next of kin, that's so about how cold they are in many ways. But
it's bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And passing